Indeed, cabinet colleagues was drawn to this tragedy. Immediately, it started unfolding. What then happened was, after reading the magnitude of the problem, the president directed that I must personally go and give political direction in the way the response was managed. I immediately moved in on the 2nd. Mind you, it happened on the 1st in the afternoon. By morning of the 2nd, I was there with the team, and I was very pleased, I want to inform this country, to find the local authorities working with the members of parliament already on the ground trying to put in place systems that were meant to minimize death particularly and to salvage what could be salvaged. So my purpose then was to go and give that support supervision and majorly just to reinforce the already local effort that was in place. Having said that, I want to say, as a result of heavy rains on the 1st of May in Kasese, 2 rivers, that is Nyamwamba and Bulembia, burst their banks, leading to flash floods in various parts of the districts. Additionally, River Nyamwamba changed its normal direction of flow to block most of, because it was blocked from most of it is where its pathway was. This caused devastation along the banks, and many communities in the Kilembe Valley were affected. Kilembe Mines, Kilembe Health Center, and Bulembia Primary Schools were the most affected because they are located at the epicenter of the floods, or at the point where the river veered from the normal flow. A lot of destruction was caused as a result of these flash floods, coupled with heavy boulders that were carried down by the overflowing river. They were so heavy, the stones, the boulders were so heavy that they could crush anything on their way down, as they destroyed houses and destroyed anything that was on their way. I want to make this clear to the country that, for example, this is a place personally I'm very familiar with, having worked in Kasese for many years before. When I visited on the 2nd, I was personally, emotionally perturbed and shocked to find that the entire nurses' quarters of Kilembe Hospital was wiped out to the extent that you don't even see any remain of a house. It was all wiped out. The good news is that when this all happened, the nurses and the medical personnel were in the hospital, and there was no life lost in those quarters. But wiping out, not that you can see some remain of a house, or wiping out the entire, because of these big stones that characterize the flow of the water. The floods continued down and settled in 3 divisions of Kasese town, submerging houses and causing enormous destruction to household property. Along the way, floods and boulders destroyed houses, crops, and infrastructure. I was also, I decided after touring the upstream sub-counties and seeing the devastation that has happened mainly in the valley. I also went to the low-lying sub-counties. Those of you know Kasese. I went to Karusandara, I went to Kamwamba, and found water settled in those areas and has caused a lot of destruction in terms of crops now. You find the places waterlogged, and therefore crops, there's going to be famine. There's going to be famine in those areas. Similar destruction took place in the rural areas, as I've indicated. The sub-counties mainly affected include Bulembia, Nyamwamba, Charumba, Chiondo, Karusandara, Maliba, Bugoye, Kilembe, Chalumpa, and all of you may not know this, but I will be giving you this in writing. Then now, specific losses. It is tragic that we lost 6 people in the first flood. 6 people have been confirmed dead. The 6 bodies have been fortunately retrieved now. At least it is unfortunate that we lost them, but we have been able to retrieve it from the running waters, and have been given befitting burial, one of a child and 5 adults. 2 children also died in the process of being relocated from Kilembe Mines Hospital, because now the administration of the hospital, working tirelessly with the volunteers, had to remove people from the hospital, take them to raised ground a bit, as the mountain, I mean the rains continue pounding the place and the rivers continue to swell, and eventually the police, and I want to thank them and other groups, were quick to go and help move the bodies, I mean the people now, the patients. I also want to add here, this Kilembe Hospital has had a reputation of being one of the best hospital orthopedic centers in the region, managing people with broken legs, and that Kilembe Hospital. So by the time this particular tragedy hit, there were very many people who had come for that kind of support. And it was a pitiful sight on the day I visited to find people with broken legs, who had come for support there, had now been relocated so that they can be taken to areas where most of them, tragically, we have just had to ask them first to be facilitated to go back to their respective districts, because they were not only from Kasese, some were from Bundubujo, from Kabarole, from Bushenyi, and so that was the kind of side that one would see in the area. From Kilembe Valley alone, we have had about 3,000 people displaced from Kilembe Valley alone. And this is, I wanted on the onset also to let the country know, this presents to us a secondary problem. Kilembe Valley has had people from all over the continent, particularly at the peak of the copper mining. Now, when the factory closed, these people were not dismissed from the place. They were allowed to remain there. So we have a situation of people whose parents have died over the years there. The parents may be from Zambia, the parents may be from different corners of the continent, but they have left their children there. And the children are now parents also. And they have been living in this valley. This is the only place they call home. Now as we talk, what they know as home is no more. So it presents us a secondary challenge. Where do we now locate these people? Because, you'll get surprised, honorable dear friends, to go there, then you get a brown person. What's your name? I'm called Omoding. Omoding? Being so brown like Wakikona? I don't know that language. Another very brown one. Who are you? I'm called Onzima. Gonia, he has no idea what you are talking about. That is Kilembe Valley. That is the community that has been there. Now they have no home. They have no home. So as government, we are going to plan on how to give them a home, a permanent home, even after this disaster passes. Let me go to actions we have taken. Immediately, I have indicated to you, His Excellency the President and the government directed me personally to go and put in place systems. Fortunately, I found the local authorities had already put systems in place. So I merely went to now reinforce them. So systems are in place. Systems to handle emergency relief, systems to handle health, systems to handle the desilting of the misbehaving river. And these systems are already in place. What have we done? We have, and I want to thank particularly the Minister of Health, the PS himself has been there, and he has now left a senior doctor. They have helped to beef up the medical team that is already on the ground in Kasese Town Council. So there is now in Health Center 3 some support from the center, Minister of Health, working with the UNICEF, working with World Health Organization. They are now beefing the local health capacity to make sure that they look after the other patients. While if they don't have the facilities, we are considering relocating some of the very, very complicated cases to Fort Portal, to Mbarara, and to Bushenyi. But the Minister of Health is on the ground. The Minister of Works, we consulted them, and they were kind also. By yesterday, the first earth-moving equipment arrived. It delayed a bit, but I am happy that it is now on the ground. To try to desilt the river, and working with the UPDF, we want to use some sandbags so that we can try to block the river from going through the hospital and those other areas, so that the river is artificially pushed back to its normal course. So every effort is being done to make that happen. Minister of Works, supervised by the the UNRWA engineer, the Uganda National Roads Authority engineer there, working with other teams, are doing that as we talk now. I have also, with the support of the Office of the Prime Minister particularly, directed the Minister of Water. The Minister of Water, Honorable Professor Kamuntu, has been directed by the Prime Minister to release the earth-moving equipment that has been in Mubuku. That earth-moving equipment that has been in Mubuku will be in sight in the next few hours to reinforce what is already happening in the works. But I want, in a very special way, to let the country know I am humbled by the support and rapid response of UPDF. UPDF sent close to about 300 soldiers. 300 soldiers have already beefed up the team of volunteers. And the local volunteers who are there, they have, as we talk now, started using manual whatever to desilt the hospital. Because if you visited Kilembe Hospital at that time, the silt had gone in some areas up to the ceiling. So they are desilting the hospital. It is unfortunate by the time it happened, the hospital had received a lot of modern equipment from a donor from United States. Modern equipment, and all that is buried. They have retrieved it, but most of it is degraded, probably beyond repair. But what I want to say, personally as a minister responsible for emergency, is that UPDF reacted, responded, and our work as a ministry is just to make sure that at least they have something they can feed after the toiling to excavate this manually. And by the time the equipment has come, they will now supplement their efforts. Having said that, the office of the Prime Minister itself, the department that I supervise, was quick to mobilize emergency relief. We were quick to mobilize emergency relief. We have delivered the relief in terms of food and non-food items. It is true that the number of victims is continuing to swell. It is true that from our reading now, as I talk to the country, we are considering establishing a camp. What we have done is to temporarily put all the victims of the upper Kilembe Valley, we are putting them in Kasese Primary School. But I want to say this is very temporal. We are putting them in Kasese Primary School. Most people were asking me, why don't you put people in the open ground of Nyakasanga? We have looked at this and we have employed all the brains around to analyze Nyakasanga open ground and all those. What is clear is that while it is true that water is running from the upstream, Nyakasanga is having the place is waterlogged. So it would not be wise for us to remove people who are traumatized from there, take them to a place which is waterlogged, then they catch cholera and other communicable diseases associated with total breakdown of hygiene. I also want to make this clear. We have done that, but what we do, as always, is when we deliver relief like this, the local authorities, especially the chief administrative officer, takes the lead in coordinating how it is distributed. But he works with the Red Cross because the Red Cross has a set of volunteers. Now, the office of the Prime Minister takes over now just the supervision. So I want the country to know, when you see Red Cross teams giving kaonga, giving beans, giving blankets to our mothers who are traumatized, it is not that the government has taken a back seat just to watch humanitarian group. The government is actually the captain of the process. The government captains the process. The humanitarian groups just continue to help us because of the personnel that they have. So I want this made very, very clear. Because sometimes my friends will say, oh, Mr. Cheru, where is government in this? We are seeing only this group distributing food. The food has been delivered thanks to the office of the Prime Minister. I personally supervise the delivery. The non-food items we have received from many quarters, and I want to thank all those groups that have done that. I want to thank UNICEF in particular for supporting us. We now have tents in place. We have tents. We have also water purification tablets. Why did we decide to treat water before people consume? I can tell you that Kilembe has been a copper mining area. By washing down what has happened, it has washed down chemicals. It has also washed down chemicals from the hospital. And all those chemicals are downstream, and my people were beginning to consume that water. So we say we must stop it, otherwise we are going to run into problems. So what we are now doing is we are mobilizing water bowsers from fire brigade and the police. So they are the ones who collect safe water, what we consider safe, but again we have to put in it treatment tablets, and with those tablets then the population consumes. So when you see people using that water, it is water that we treat so that they can consume. We are discouraging people from using this water from the downstream because it has washed down a lot of contamination. So basically, that's what I wanted to indicate to the country. In the last 24 hours, when we were beginning to have a sigh of relief, the river again decided to swell. Apparently, the rains increased. It looks like the mountain is going to receive some rains. I'm happy meteorology is here to indicate to us the threat. The river decided to swell, and now we have to grapple with that second phase of the challenge. And I can tell you, everything is being done to make sure that we evacuate now all the people from the valley to a place of safety. And then these people, the technical people, the groups that I've indicated to you, will move down to make sure that, one, we must save the hospital. We will not allow that hospital to be permanently degraded. That is one. Two, we are going to save the mine. Mind you, the government of Uganda was working to have investors to restart, to resuscitate the copper mine. They were actually there 2 days and only when the flood arrived. But we have assured them that everything is being done to make sure that we pump out water from the tunnel, and this investment, their investment will be safe. They will come back and invest. It is the hope of the country. It is also the hope of the region. Now, I want to conclude by saying, given what I have heard from meteorology, if I can pick their minds, and they have indicated to me, these rains are going to be around for some time. As a ministry, I have been requested by the leaders from other parts of the country which are mountainous, like the Elgon region. A leader called me yesterday and was right in the night and said, Mr. Churu, while it is true the tragedy in Kasese may take all your attention, don't forget the Elgon region. And therefore, we have decided that we will mobilize the resources, particularly food, to use the local government to direct the people in steep hills in the entire Elgon region, and also Bundubujo in the Rwenzori and some parts of Kabale, which are now showing signs of fatigue because of the pounding rains, to come down. Then they can be supported by government on feeding as we observe the behavior of the mountains in the next 1 to 2 months. That is the directive that will be given to the local authorities. The question would be, how do they feed? Government who are going to undertake the feeding. The most important thing, working with the local leaders, we don't want people in steep hills. We don't want landslides to bury our people. And we want cooperation from all the people in these areas. And we are going to implement that.
More than normal rainfall. And this is what is exactly taking place. When I try to look at the satellite picture this morning, we find that the rains are still with us. The pressure systems which cause rainfall in Uganda, we have, I don't know whether we'll be able to see this map. This map, we have a high pressure cell here and high pressure cell here, which are pushing on the rain belt into our region. So the rain belt.
When you say here, maybe you specify the regions because most of them cannot see it.
Okay. In the southern Africa, below Madagascar, there is a high pressure cell, and also on the other side, Uganda. The opposing cells, which are in the north, the Arabian Ridge, and also the Azores High, which is over here in the Western Africa, will be pushing this rain belt south of us, but they are also weak. So it means that the rain belt will still remain with us. That means that in the next 7 days, we shall still remain continuing to get rainfall, and this will continue until some time. So, Honorable Minister, I'm also very sad about the death of our people, but we, in the Department of Meteorology, we try as much as possible, using what we have to give a forecast. And this forecast was given, and an update was also given. So we hope that people will take heed and move away from areas which are very prone to flooding.
It is not only just forestry. There are very many stakeholders in what we call element of climate change adaptation that specifically talks about revival of our environment. So we are working with the Red Cross, we are working with the NEMA, we are working with to make sure that we distribute as many seedlings as possible. I also want to let you know that it's real our considered opinion. We are pushing it through cabinet and the cabinet to parliament eventually as a ministry and working with the environment to make sure that we get a day that will be designated for Environment Day in the country. So that day, like many countries are doing now, we will just say if we put day X on a particular month of the year so that the whole country poses a little to plant a tree. We all pose a little plant a tree or clean something around you that is hazardous to the environment. So that Environment Day, where my ministry is working with the ministry responsible for environment so that we take it to cabinet and from cabinet to parliament. And the moment that day will be notified so that we really take this head on, because we agree degradation is part of the problem.
Thank you.
Honorable Minister Ranga William Jefferson.
Put where the river is now. The river, as we talk, has taken over what used to be people's homes. So it will never be possible now to go and say, let's put back your home here. First of all, how do you stand there even? If I took some of you, I guess some of you have been there. The river is very violent as it moves. You know, it is carrying boulders. Some of the boulders I'm talking about are weighing, I don't know how many metric tons. So what we're talking about, if this place gets permanently degraded, first we want to force the river back to its normal course. Then the families I've talked to about, we will ask government look for probably a place where we can settle them. And the moment the first thing will start first, where do we settle them? And when we identify such a place, that's when all these other issues of permanent houses and stuff like that will follow. But first things first, for us now, what is taking our attention, saving life and the welfare of the survivors. 6, 1 child and 5 adults. Then when we're relocating the patients from Kilembe Hospital now, that's when we lost again 2 kids, those are 8. But I have been told by the health center, maybe some mothers we may have lost because of just poor management. But that was now outside our hands when we're doing search and rescue.
Thank you.
Kind to us this time round, children were out for holidays, fortunately. Then also the calamity struck during day. And if it was night, then we would have lost so many patients first in the hospital. If the school was still operational, we were going to run into big problems. Now what we have decided to do is, let's first save lives. Let's assess the magnitude of destruction. And then I am meeting again my supervisor, the Prime Minister, this evening, so that we will present a comprehensive report to the Prime Minister, so that the Prime Minister directs the other sectors. Say, for example, the destruction that has been occasioned to the crops needs the Minister of Agriculture to come up with a comprehensive intervention, seedlings, seeds, and a number of things. For me and as a minister, we will respond with the relief. But relief will only be a stopgap measure. There's a need to prescribe a lasting solution. That is for agriculture. As for education, that also must be presented. How will we handle? I can tell you that the sad thing that happened there was, by the time the river got swollen, there were children from different parts of the country, including Seta High, who had gone there to study things to do with the mine, and so they were cut off there at that time. So the most important thing first was to vacate all those students in their thousands. We did that. Then also to cause their buses to cross now. Against the raging, we had to put some stones in some places so that the buses could be able to get out. And I'm happy to report to you that no child died, and all those visitors were able to go away. The problem, of course, it is huge for the country. That place has also been a big tourist destination, and it got some tourists there. But I have promised the tourists, this happens everywhere, including sometimes New York. We will fix the problem. They should come back. The school was degraded. The schools have been very badly degraded. The books destroyed, some of the staff houses completely washed out.
They come where the children are, where the people are being taken.
Where we are taking the children. Save the Children is helping us with an environment that is going to be conducive particularly to children. We always take into consideration that. So we're working with Save the Children and an organization called Right to Play to make sure that they create a conducive environment within that bad situation which can make the children feel at home. This is a camp situation, but it is safe. And ours is to make sure there is no cholera. Ours is to make sure they are fed. Ours is to make sure they are safe. Safe in the real sense of the word. We have deployed their adequate security like the police and the rest, so that no criminal takes advantage of these traumatized people. Now, then you are talking about the number. I don't know which number.
No, you said the number of victims continues to grow.
The number of victims continues. The reason is that, first of all, the hospital was closed. That's one. Two, the river is very unpredictable. Yesterday, it had made us feel, I think we have conquered the situation, only to be surprised that the river has swollen again, and all of a sudden water is beginning to go to even areas that were started handling. So the situation, the environment there, the weather is continuing to be unpredictable. It has been confirmed by the expert here in meteorology that the mountain is going to continue being pounded by the rain. And this is not only Rwenzori, this is happening in Kabale, this is happening in the Elgon region, and it's affecting all the hilly areas. So even the warning I'm sending, I'm not sending it only to the pole of Kasese. I'm sending it to the entire population of the Elgon region. I'm sending it to the entire population of Rwenzori region, including Bundubujo and parts of Kabarole. And I'm sending it to Kabale, which has also from time to time witnessed landslides. You cannot, even in the event of that, if meteorology tells you that there's going to be very heavy rains in the next month, which might result into landslides or lakes swelling their banks and overflow, you will not know with the precision where it is going to happen. I want to give the country an example of Fukushima in Japan. Fukushima was predicted 30 years ago, and the Japanese have been doing drills in anticipation of a serious tsunami, and then it happened in a place they least expected and killed many people. But because of the drills that they had undergone, many people were able to run to the higher ground. They could not with the mathematical precision tell that is going to happen in this area. That one is always something that remains to nature. I am personally very happy man first with the Musisi, Madame Musisi, for what she's doing to clean the city. I only want her to walk an extra mile to help us correct what was done by case, what was it before to allow my people to settle in the waterways in Bwaise. By people settling in the waterways in Bwaise, the unsuspecting people were duped to believe that is home. But that's a waterway. And I want Madam Musisi and her team to help my ministry to find a way of helping those people get out of that place. With this prediction of a very unpredictable weather and heavy rain is coming, we wouldn't want a situation that is catastrophic to happen here. So that is my prayer. We are working with them, but mine is to indicate sometimes, but you know, enforcement belongs to the law and order management organs of government.